Okay, friends, today we are going to make this pendant. So let's get started. The first thing you are going to need is some 20 gauge round dead soft wire. You're going to need 2 pieces of 16 gauge. I have listed all of the materials you'll need in the description, but we're going to start with 2 pieces of 16 inches of 20 gauge round wire. I have already done this first kind of step once on one of these 16 gauge wires, and it looks like this. So we're going to do this again on this piece. I'm sorry if I said 16 gauge, I meant to say 20 gauge, 16 inches. So right at the, oh, good morning, how are you? Right at the very, very center of your 16-inch piece, you're going to take, I'm using my step bail making pliers. Really anything that has a nice solid square jaw works great for this. And I'm just going to press that in there and fold over the jaw of that, so I'm left with something that looks like this. And then I'm going to take I don't know how Phillips head screwdrivers are actually measured. Hey Lynn, how are you? I don't know how Phillips head screwdrivers are actually measured because that's just not my forte in life. However, I did measure this screwdriver and it is about 5 millimeters across. So it's a 5 millimeter diameter screwdriver for what it's worth. And what I'm going to do is take that screwdriver and take my wire and just lay it across the screwdriver like this. And we're going to take one side and we're going to do 7 rotations. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we want it to lay where this little square section right here is facing us, and our final section of wire is kind of perpendicular to that. So we want it to kind of be on the same plane, if that makes sense. So we don't want it to go up like this or down like this, like this. We want it to be on that same plane. Hopefully that makes sense. I love your creativity. Thank you. All right, I'm going to take that off there. We're going to flip it around and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I did do 7, right? 2, 4, 6, 7. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7, 7, 7. Can I count? 2, 4, 6, 7. Yes. Okay. And then we're left with something that looks like this. We can take that off. Hey, Mrs. Mudgy, how are you? And then we have 2 pieces that look like this. Our next step is going to be to flatten these coils, and we want to flatten them in a way to where our long pieces of wire go out to the side. So when I do this, I'm going to pinch these so that this naturally will lay flat and go out in to the right in the direction that I want it to go. So it's all on one plane like that. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side like that. Right. And we can set that down and go ahead and do that with our other section as well. Pretty nails, by the way. Thank you. And then what I like to do is very, very gently, because you don't want to like misshape your little loops, is take my nylon jaw pliers and then just kind of flatten this out just a little bit so that it's nice and flat and on the same plane. And then we'll do the same thing with the other one. All right, and then once we've done that, we're going to take this. Be very gentle here. Don't rush this. Don't pull really hard. You're just really going to want to gently pull. You want these to just kind of be just shy of overlapping each other. So just a little bit separated, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Again, very, very gently. We do want to try and make sure those loops are as even as possible. Sometimes that can be frustrating, but just be patient. Okay, so there's one side. And now we're going to do the other side. And we just want those to lay nice and linear. Then you're going to grab 2 pieces of 20 gauge round wire that are roughly 12 inches long. I feel like I maybe measured that one a little wrong. Let's see, this is 12 inches. So it's just like extra long. Do I not know how to measure? No, it's 12 inches. I've just, okay. All right. Honestly, 12 inches is probably a bit much, and I might go back and change it because I just want it to be about the same length as the sections that we've created here. So honestly, let's see, that's probably more like 9 or 10 inches. And so I'm going to leave it at 12 for now, just in case for some reason it ends up being like necessary, which I don't think it will be. But I am going to center my 2 12-inch pieces with my coiled pieces so that the same amount is sticking off on this side as is sticking off on this side. So this is the coiled piece right here, and then we've got the little extra, and same over here. Hi Anna, how are you? All right, so we're just gonna line those up like this. And then you're gonna grab a section of probably 30 inches, that's what I have written down, of a 24 gauge wire. You could probably use a 26 gauge for this. You could probably use a 22 gauge for this, but but right now we're using a 24 gauge. And then what I'm going to do is probably about 4 rotations around all 4 of those base wires. Just like that. And then try and keep them from overlapping. And then I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and just kind of crimp those down like that. I usually like to just flatten that and pull this back so that's in line with the rest. Okay. And now I'm going to go between each of these loops, and we're going to do 2. This can get a little tricky. You really do want to make sure all of your wires are nice and aligned here. But you want to do 2 rotations, and then you can go in very gently because you don't want to mar your wire, and flatten those out. And we're just going to keep that going all the way till we get to this center right here. So 2. If you see it start overlapping, don't try and force it. See, that's exactly what I just did. Don't try and force it like I just did, because you can break your wire. But that's okay. So I'll show you what to do if you do that. So this section here is actually going to be our inside. Normally I do this where it's like sectioned 2 by 2 by 2 on the outside, but the piece that I'm specifically repeating actually kept this design as the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice this in a way to where my cut is going to be on this side. So all I'm going to do is just lay my wire down so that I can start right where I was and pretend like nothing actually went wrong. And then we're going to do our best to flatten that. There we go. And then once we get our kind of groove going again, we'll go back and cut that so that it lays nicely. I always want to cross. I'm going to go in here and kind of straighten this out. There we go. Okay. All right, then when we get here, I'm going to do about 6 rotations. So 2, 3, 4. Really want to make sure that our wires don't cross. Sometimes it helps if you just grab your wire with your flat nose and then coil it with your other hand. Say 4, 5, and 6. 2, 4, 6. Okay. And you can go in and flatten that down. I try and avoid flattening these halfway between my coils, like through my coils. Like say I did 4 coils and then flattened it and then continued. I find that that can like mess up the congruency of, is that, I don't even know if that's the right word. Forgive me if it's not, of your coils. So they'll look off if you do that. So try and not, and sometimes it's unavoidable, but try and not crunch them down mid coiling. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of buy myself some space, and we're gonna do 6 coils over here on this side as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Hi, Joe. Hi, Lydia. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. You should make a metal version of the chokers we used to wear in the 90s. You know, I've thought about doing that. In fact, I was making a bracelet the other day. I still haven't finished it. And somebody told me that I should turn this into a choker. And I'm honestly contemplating it because I do think it would be really cool as a choker. Yes, this video will be available once I'm finished. It'll get posted for forever. Unless something tragic happens while I'm, mid live stream, like something embarrassing or whatever. So, but in the event everything goes normally, yes, you'll be able to watch this later. All right. Okay, so I actually need to do one more rotation over here, I believe. Is that 3? No, I don't. No, I don't. Do I? Oh, that's why. Okay. All right. One, 2. One, 2. One, 2. One, 2. One, 2. And then we've got our last ones. Make sure those wires are nice and lined up and straight. And we'll do our 4 rotations over here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then just gonna leave this nice and flat. Squish that back. And then I'm gonna cut on this side halfway across like that. going to set the remaining wire to the side because we'll be using that for our accent bead when we're done, when we're very close to done. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to cut right here and right here so that those can lay nice and flat. And then we're going to come back to our splice section. And we can cut about halfway, about halfway. Lay those nice and flat. They don't have to be perfect, they'll be inside our piece. And then our last little section back here, we can go ahead and cut right there. Thank you. Even if you do something embarrassing, it's always cute. So just go. Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. All right. Oh yeah, I'm excited to say I hit 11,000 followers here on YouTube today, and I'm really excited about that. I think that's really cool. So now I'm going to go through with my nylon jaw pliers, and I'm just going to kind of push everything down very gently, just to kind of make sure everything's nice and flat. And then I'm going to grab my bench block and my chasing hammer, and I'm going to go to the edge of our bench block and very gently, you don't want to hit the wires where they cross over each other because that can cause breakage. Please keep that in mind. So I'm trying to aim primarily for the outside. What you can see of this last little loop, that's where I'm trying to aim. Anything this side over, I don't want to hit with my hammer. So please keep that in mind when you're doing this. Doing this will help provide extra support and integrity for your wire. So, but again, if you hit those cross sections, it can have the exact opposite effect. So be mindful of that. And it creates a nice effect as well. Right, and then you are done with your bench block and your chasing hammer. Our next step is going to be to fold everything in half. So when you do this, learn from my mistakes and make sure you fold it with the inside section where all the cuts are inside, because I have very much made that mistake before. And when doing this specific maneuver, that is very difficult to undo. So we're going to try our best to just fold this in half. Make sure these top points line up nicely. And we're going to go down here with our flat nose pliers, and we're going to squoosh as best as we can. Okay, back up. Oh shoot, you know what? Hold on. I'm so sorry. Bear with me, guys. All right. And then we're just going to kind of gently roll. Get my stone out. See which way the flash is best. Gosh, that's a tough one because the flash is pretty well either direction. I think I'm gonna go this way. All right, we're just gonna make sure that that will fit nicely in there. It looks like it will. Okay. And then I'm going to use those same step pliers and a pair of my flat nose pliers just to add a little extra length to measure out the bail. That way I know that it's even on both sides, which saves a lot of heartache. And then we'll go back and we'll double check again to make sure. Looks good. Now we're going to grab our 5 inches of 20 gauge half round. And I'm just going to fold that in half with the flat side inside. And then we'll take that halfway point and just kind of straddle it over our bail wires. And then I'm going to just, I like to pull nice and tight here so that I know that it's like nice and tightly resting on either side of my bail wires. And then I take this side, making sure my flat side is facing me. I push into the middle and then out the front like that. Out the corresponding side. Now we're going to do a ribbon channel bail, which I have done before in other live streams. And same thing on the other side. Right. And then this point can get kind of wonky, but don't let it ruin your day. I think of the hundreds of these that I've done, maybe 5 of them have actually like laid perfectly where it's not like one's coming down a little further than the other. Don't let it ruin your day. It's okay. So now I'm going to go in here with my flat nose pliers and I'm just going to gently push those 2 wires down on top here so that they lay nice and flush with the rest of our wires. And now I'm going to grab my other piece of 20 gauge half round, which is approximately 12 inches. I'm going to take flat side toward me. I'm going to wedge it between those 8 wires right there, like that, and gently pinch to keep it still, and then start rotating around. I'm going to do 3 rotations because I do want this to be a little bit taller. Go in here and flatten that down just a bit. All right. And I've got that coming off the left side. I'm going to hold that nice and snug while I find my back 3 wires on either side. And make sure you're pulling from the right side. I almost just pulled from the wrong side. So this is on this side. Let's see what else. Here we go. 2 and 3. So my back 3 wires on the right there, and then my back 3 wires on the other side. So we have something that looks like this. All right. All right. And then I like to pull back to the back with my half round, pull it between all of these wires, go over to the front, and then I'm going to do 2 rotations around just the 4 wires, the 2 20 gauge round, and then the 2 20 gauge half round, landing with it going around the back to the left. And then you can take your flat nose pliers very gently and kind of marry those together. And then we can take our half round wires and pull them straight up like that. And this is the point where we, if you're not comfortable with doing a ribbon setting, at this point honestly, at this point, if you've gotten this far, you should just try a ribbon setting. But you can do basically everything I just did without adding these half round wires, just the 2 that are sticking up, and you don't have to add them or a facet up here. You can just take this half round wire and finish doing your bail, just doing single rotations around the end here. But we are doing a ribbon setting right now. So I'm going to spread these apart. And depending on the size of your stone, you're going to create like a little basket, essentially, to cradle your facet. So it just needs to be slightly more narrow than the facet itself. I am using a 5mm facet for this. And I am 1000% just guessing on size, so there's a strong possibility that when I pull this facet out of the bag, I'm gonna have to redo what I just did, but fingers crossed I got it right the first time. All right, moment of truth. Oh my gosh, it couldn't have been better if I tried. All right, so then you're just gonna take your facet and it's gonna hang out in there like that. It's just gonna nestle right in there. Like that. All right, and then we'll take our 20 gauge half round wires and very gently lay them across our facet, and then have them realign with our 20 gauge round wires on the other side. Okay. At this point, it might terrify you to do this, but you can actually just flip this over because that's pretty much in there. You just need to tie it down at this point. So now I'm going to take my half round from the bottom here that we were coiling, and we're going to bring it up across the back of that facet. You need to make sure that you keep your half round wires lined up here. And we're going to do 2 rotations around all 4 of those wires again. At this point, you can kind of make any adjustments you feel you need for that facet. As you can see, mine is like really wanting to lean. I'm being really gentle when I'm doing this, just so you guys know. Don't ever squeeze your pliers around a facet, because you're gonna have a bad time. just telling you, it's not gonna be great. All right. So now I'm just gonna go in here and try and do whatever adjustments I need to do to make myself feel more comfortable about this facet situation. It's feeling awkward for me for some reason. I don't know why it's feeling so awkward for me for some reason. That's probably why. There we go. All right. So I've done my 2 rotations. I'm going to lift up my half round wires again. This is not necessary at all, but I like to do it because I really like the effect that it gives. And I'm going to do 2 rotations just around my round wires. Lay my half round down. You can take your flat nose pliers and kind of pinch those down a little bit. Do 2 more rotations. Lift up your half round again. Do 2 more rotations. I like to do like 5 or 6 sections of these. I find that to be about as much as I need in order to make a bail. Your bail should be roughly 1 inch long. But that is going to depend on how large of a stone you used here. If you used a larger stone, you're going to need more bail wire to compensate for this little section right here when you fold it back over. So that's something to keep in mind. Or if you just want a larger or smaller bail, you know, adjust accordingly. Oh, thanks, Shauna. How are you? Good morning. I guess it's a little late to say this, but I do want to say, if you are not seasoned in working with half round wire, one thing that I have found that has been life-saving as far as twisting my half round wire is always turn your work and not your wire. So as you can see, I'm not guiding my wire around like I would with a round wire. I am twisting my work and letting it pull the wire onto it. That way I can keep that half round wire with the flat side where it needs to be and the round side where it needs to be. Okay, and this will be our last one. So I'm going to do 1 rotation, lift up with my half round wires. I'm going to get in as close as I can with my flush side toward my work. You always want to cut flush side toward your work. Cut. And then you can take your flat nose pliers, just kind of lay that down and then continue. I usually do about 4 to 5 rotations total here. And then once we're across the back, we're going to cut halfway across the back lay that down nicely. And then we'll do a 90-degree angle bend from the end of that. Usually I will push forward to the front of my piece here, gently, make sure you're mindful of your stone. And then I use my finger to round it out and my thumb to push forward. And we're just gonna guide that 90-degree angle right into here. So we have something that looks like this. In this instance, I got ahead of myself. So I'm gonna gently undo what I just did. We're gonna take our back two wires over here, and we are going to guide them over to this side. So we want 5 wires on our right and 1 wire on our left. My bad, sorry. And then we do that. It went so smoothly, of course there was something I did wrong. All right, so I'm gonna pull these straight up so that I have a little more access here. And now we're going to take our wires that are sticking through. We're gonna tickle the little guy because he's got his arms up. Tickle him. And then you're gonna roll your wire back on either side. You can take your flush cutters. I usually aim to cut, if I like eyeball it, right? I double this, hold on, how do I explain this? This space right here, I kind of visually double that in my mind. So I would go, okay, that's about this far out. And then right here is where I usually cut. Because when you fold it over, like it feels like it's going to be too much, right? Like it's going to stick out on the other side. But when you fold it over, it's going to take just a little bit of extra length off once you fold it. And it ends up laying like almost perfectly across the bottom here. So again, I always just kind of visualize that. Cover your work when you cut so you don't blind yourself or others, and then we'll lay just underneath. Same thing over here. And then I just like to go in here and flatten those out. And I go up here and kind of pull them towards the center, just like that. And then we'll just flatten these, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. And then we have this. When you do your bail and when you fold it over, what happens is it's going to pull those half round wires, right? And so inevitably when it does that, it's going to tighten this space right here and it's going to cover your facet a little bit more. So at this point, now that you have your bail laid over, you can take your nails, if you have strong nails, and kind of push out to the edge, or, and you need to be mindful of your strength here, you can take flat nose pliers very, very gently and open them. Again, very, very gently inside, and they'll spread that apart a little bit more. Coffee. 1 second. All right. Now, go to the back of your pendant. We'll take our nylon jaw pliers, and you can gently fold everything in. I did find the first time that I did this that these are going to want to overlap a little bit. So if you are mindful of that, I do try and like have them overlap in like an order, right? So that it's like this one's on the bottom and they just keep going and, you know, underneath each other. But I don't remember if the end result even, like, I feel like maybe by the time it was done, it ended up kind of fixing itself. I don't honestly remember. But if you are real keen on those little details, it is something to kind of be mindful of when you do this. Okay. All right. Now we can add our stone. Hey, Lena, Dana. All right. And now we can do the same thing on the other side and just start pressing down gently. Let's see, we did this one first, so we'll go boom, boom, boom. Push this one through on this side enough so it's not wanting to lay down as much over here. At this point, you do need to be very mindful of how hard you squeeze and what you're using to squeeze. I will save you a lot of heartache right now if you listen. Don't ever take your metal pliers, hear me, and try and squeeze like this. You're gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a bad time. I have found it's a little easier if you very gently do it with nylon jaw pliers, very gently, because there's a little bit of give there, but you also, again, you need to be very mindful because stone can break. Your metal is stronger than your stone. And unless you have ample replacement stones, you may cry at that point. This goes for all of my bezel techniques. Okay. I just want to make sure that this is laying down evenly. There we go. My name is Chanel. Is that right? All right. So now we're going to take our front two pieces of wire over here on our right side. We're going to swoop them across here and we're going to create a spiral that's basically going to land. Hold on, let me get a good pointy tool. How about a wire? It's basically going to land right where the tip of my wire is right now. So if you imagine there's a spiral, the center of that spiral is going to go like right there, just for the sake of visualization. So I'm going to go across. I'm going to lay my thumbnail kind of right there and use my thumb to create some resistance and then gently start spiraling, and then we're going to go across just like that. And then you can lay across here and down across your back and then clip. take your flat nose pliers very gently and then squeeze that down. Okay. Yeah, check my reference photo. Okay. So the next section, you're going to coil 20 gauge half round around this wire. You have a couple options here, right? The first thing you can do is you can go ahead and throw a 20 gauge half round wire. You know, you can start the wire that we're going to pretend that this is a half round wire. You can take the end of it, take your thumb, and then just start spiraling right around. Or you can do what I did, and you take a piece of, and I have listed this in the materials, a piece of 18 gauge wire, so 1 gauge larger than the gauge that we're working on here. Take an 18 gauge wire. Oh. I wasn't originally going to demonstrate this, but we'll do it anyway. If I have. Okay. Do it for the gram. You can take your, I'm just going to start this. I'm not going to do the whole thing. Take your half round wire, take an 18 gauge wire, just do a couple rotations loosely so you have flat side down, right? And then you do like a, this doesn't matter what's going on here, do like a 90-degree bend. This is just a hand drill right here. You can open that up. Stick it in so that the center of your wire, the center is holding your wire, and grab your other piece. And then what you're going to do, usually what I recommend is having something heavy that like you can stick your wire in. What works really, really great is a spool, like a heavy spool. You can literally set it down on the ground, stick the end of your wire. Again, this is usually longer, but you can stick the end of your wire in that spool. So it basically is like holding it. You just want it to keep it from smacking you in the face, right? Now I can only speak English, unfortunately. I speak a little French. Anyway, so you'll stick that in there if you have a longer wire, and that'll keep it from smacking you in the face and hurting you. And then you're going to want to grab your wire. Watch out for this section right here because it can and potentially will cut you. And then as you grow more comfortable, you can speed up. Sometimes that happens. And then you basically can create your coil, right? And then I'll show you why we used a, I'm just going to get the rest of this real quick. So we just have a little bit of a tail here. As you can see, it's a lot faster. And if you could feel the way my wrist feels right now, it's a lot less painful on your joints to do it with the drill. But then you can unbend this end. I usually like to just kind of uncoil some of those end pieces, right? And then you can just gently pull that off of your 18 gauge wire. You can keep this if you want for future use. Right, I'm going to cut the extra sections off right here, just so it doesn't stick out. Right, this may not be long enough because again, it was just kind of a demonstration. I'm just going to try and push those in a little bit. And then the reason I did that over a 18 gauge wire rather than a 20 gauge wire is because you can literally, if you haven't had only coffee as food, you can just stick that on there and it'll slide right where you want it to go. And it's just makes life a lot easier. This actually might be the perfect size. So now what I'm going to do, in hopes that this is the perfect size, is I'm going to go across. I'm pinching very tightly right here to keep this from sliding because it's going to want to slide. And then you can go across like that. And then across over here. And then I am going to go in here, actually just for the sake of not having to fight this or potentially cutting the wrong wire. You can go in and just like kind of cut at that one little section, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to uncoil it. Make sure everything's laying the way I want it to. Okay. All right. And then I'm just going to try and make sure that this last little coil ends on the bottom side. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't, but it's preferable. And then we're going to cut here. And gently, don't put a lot of pressure on this end with your pliers. You're basically just using that as like leverage to kind of get more pressure on the bottom here. And then you just kind of flatten everything down. If you push too hard, it's going to separate those coils and it's not going to look very good. Okay, so now you have that section right there. Hey Lily, how are you? And then I'm gonna take these two wires right here. Really? So I'm just realizing that I may have added oh, I guess I added 2 extra wires. Okay, I see what I did. All right, everybody calm down. Quit freaking out. All right, so I'm going to take these 2 wires, and I'm just going to kind of guide them so that they frame out that next section. And then lay that nice and flat. This didn't go in like I'd like it to. There we go. And then we'll cut here. Same thing, just gently lay that nice and flat. All right, now we're going to take a section of 22 gauge wire. This is a 12-inch section. I did not put this part in the description as far as tools, but I use the cup burr for this. This is roughly, I don't know, just just over 2 millimeters in diameter. So if you have something that's like 2 millimeters in diameter, I would recommend using that. I wonder if, is that about the same? That's a little bit larger. I also have like, I feel like these sets would work really well too. So it's like this size right here, I think. No, maybe a little bit smaller. Anyway, find something that's roughly 2 millimeters in diameter. It's not the end of the world if it's a little bit larger or a little bit smaller. You might need to trial and error it. I know not everybody has a cup burr, and I know that not everyone's cup burr is the same size. Anyway, so I'm gonna leave about a 4-inch tail on this. And I'm gonna do, I don't even know how many rotations. I'm just gonna guess. How many rotations am I doing? Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I'm trying to make it a nice number. We'll do 20. 19, 20. Sure, that works for me. All right. We do want our end wire to be basically on the same plane here. So see how this one's going straight out that way. This one's coming straight this way. And now what we're going to do is kind of the same thing we did at the beginning, where we flatten that coil out. Because this is a little smaller, is a little more ironically cumbersome to flatten out, but you can use your nylon jaw pliers to do it. Probably went a little far, probably too many. Too many coils, that's okay. All right. And now I'm just gonna bend that. You know, I think I do want it to go this way because I think when I lay that down, it'll lay a little better. All right. So I am intentionally doing this so that the section of wire that's coming straight out is coming out from the top here, so that when I lay it over, it does it in like a kind of a nice way. I'm also going to go in here and kind of fix this right there. There we go. All right. So I'm going to send this back here and lay that right here. Like that. And I believe on the first one, I did take this wire and send it back through this loop just for a little extra integrity there. But be gentle when you do that, because if you pull too hard, you're going to pull that coil. So try and guide it through there rather than pulling it through there, if that makes sense. And we'll go ahead and cut here and lay that down. I did kind of create a little bit more of a space here, so I'm going to see if I can just kind of pull that whole section in. There we go. All right, and we're going to come up here. I'm going to make sure that if I lay this right there, it'll look the way it's supposed to, and it will. Wait, let me double check that. I feel like it moved a little bit. Okay, yes, that's exactly where I want that to be. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this section of wire and I'm going to do one full rotation around the bail. Like that. And then at this point, we're going to take these two wires and they are going to become best friends. So we are going to twist them. If you find when you do twists that they don't lay nicely, I have found the key is to make sure that they are spread out evenly, and you're twisting straight out from each other. So once you get to that short section, it can get really difficult, but you just want to make sure that they're like helicoptering around each other, if that makes sense. Okay, and because they're two different gauges, it makes it a little bit more difficult. And same thing as far as laying this down, because they're two different gauges, you really have to kind of shape it around what you're doing here, because they're not going to bend evenly. Okay, then we get to the other side, and usually what I try and do, I try and not bend a twisted section. Like, I try not to fold a twisted section. So my goal is to keep what's going across here nice and straight so that I can just kind of lay it down, clip it, and then fold it over like so. And then I really would like this to be on the outside. There we go, just like that. Just because I don't want any of that coil to get caught when it's being worn and get uncoiled, right? So there we go. And then our last part of this whole situation is going to be adding a little bead here at the bottom. And so I'm going to grab a 4mm bead, just a round copper bead, and make sure it sits there comfortably, because we might go a little smaller. It feels a little big. I don't know. Let me see what a 3mm looks like. I don't know. I don't mind it. I feel like that's probably fine. But I am going to see what a smaller one looks like. Let's try 3. Does that just go straight through? I think 4. You guys think 4? I feel like 4 is probably better. All right. So what I'm going to do here is this is the remaining 22 gauge wire that we had, and I'm going to try my best to see if I can just add a a rotation in here and like get it to line up, but sometimes that's easier said than done. There we go. Just gonna leave that right there. We'll go ahead and add our bead. So just did one single rotation there. Add the bead. I'm wondering if maybe it's better if I come in from the front. I think I might do that. Reverse, reverse. I think I want it to come across the front, if that makes sense. So we'll go up like this. Try and see if we can make that land in the same spot again. So sorry if I'm off screen, that's totally my bad. I had one job. Now we'll add a bead. There we go. Let's see if we can get this one to lay down nicely too. Can you just wedge in there? I believe in you. You know what? Let's see if we can make it go across the top like that. That would be cool. Bring this to the back, and I think what I'm going to do in this instance, I don't believe this is how I finish the back on the other, but I think it's how I'm going to do it on this one, is I'm going to go across here and do just get out of my way, please. There we go. All right. And we're just going to do a couple rotations on this little loop here. I feel like that's going to provide a little more stability for the whole piece as well, because it'll be pulling our frame together just slightly. Yeah. And we'll do so that's 3 rotations. We'll go ahead and break that. And then we'll do the same thing over here. Make sure that that lays nice and neat. This one's going to be more of a pain. It's a tighter space because we've got the crisscross effect happening. go. You can do it. Sometimes you gotta make like a little fish hook. Don't you embarrass me, wire. There we go. See? Little fish hook. Just enough to grab it with your pliers. Same thing again. There we go. That's it. And then we can go ahead and break. Just like that. Nice and clean on the back there. Nice and clean on the front. And that's it. Voila, we did it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you have not already done so, if you enjoy tutorials like this and would like to see more. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I go live. I don't know what the situation is with TikTok right now. But I've said it time and time again, if that is not available to me, this is where I will be. I'm just making sure that these are all like overlapping like I'd like them to. So if you enjoy this and you're maybe not a TikTok person, and you want to see more of my stuff, I do live stream on TikTok currently 6 to 7 days a week. I make almost everything that I make live over on TikTok. And in the event that TikTok is no longer available to me, that those daily live streams are going to migrate most likely over here. So please keep that in mind. If you want to keep watching my content. I'm just aggressively making adjustments here. All right, cool. Just wanted to make sure everything was nice and neat and clean the way I like it to be. All right, my loves, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will be going live over on TikTok here in just a few minutes. So if you want to come hang out over there, and you're here and I'm live right now, go hang out, come hang out on TikTok. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you make this, please tag me if you post it, because I'd love to see what you guys create. And that's it. Thank you guys so much. I hope y'all have a wonderful day. See you later. Bye.